If you have anxious attachment, it can often be very challenging when it comes to connecting or relating with others. And this is especially challenging in romantic connection. People with anxious attachment have deep-seated fear of abandonment and they do crave for a lot of closeness. Unfortunately, the anxious patterns that they are not aware of is the very thing that tend to push people away. Because people who are anxiously attached requires a lot of reassurances and they do desire consistency, they do desire closeness, and they also happen to be very attuned to others' emotional needs. And this makes it very difficult for them to connect with someone or relate to someone because they are constantly scanning for threats or they're constantly on the lookout for any potential signs of abandonment, and in doing so they tend to manifest problems that don't even exist in the connection, and as a result they would engage in sabotaging behaviors that does the exact opposite of what they actually desire. So while they desire closeness and they desire safety in a relationship and fear abandonment, engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors does the exact opposite by pushing people away and then creating further emotional wounds. So today we are going to look at how you can go from anxious to secure attachment in 10 steps. I have had both anxious and avoidant attachment, which is also known as disorganized attachment. However, in today's topic, we are only going to cover how I went from anxious to secure attachment. So how do you know you have anxious attachment? Well, if you are anxiously attached, you get very nervous or anxious when you do not hear back from someone that's close to you. Now, let's maybe talk about romantic connection, which makes it easier for a lot of us to relate to. Now, when you do not hear back from your partner after sending that text message or leaving them a missed call, if you do not hear back from them within an hour or two, instead of considering that, they may be engaged, with work or something else, instead of considering that could be other possibilities as to why they had not come back to you, you tend to go into this rumination and start thinking of the worst. And now your anxious attachment is being triggered and you are engaging in protest behaviors. You are constantly trying to call them, you are leaving them missed calls, and then you are just assuming the worst case scenario. You would start assuming that they're losing interest in you. You start thinking that they might be interested in someone else, and all this further pushes your attachment system to want to establish connection with your attachment figure. And now this is being done in an attempt to secure that closeness. So by trying to engage in this behavior, now instead of getting the closeness and the safety that you so desire, you will actually push the people away. It's going to push your partner away because to them it would seem like you're being mistrustful, you do not trust them, and you're not giving them that breathing space, and it can be very depleting for the other person. Now, when you're anxiously attached, you also tend to seek constant reassurances. And sometimes, no matter how much reassurances one gives you, it may never seem enough. So you would just keep doing this again and again, and it gets to a point the other person just feels like they cannot handle this anymore, because no matter how much reassurances you get, you still are not convinced that they are not going to leave you. Now, these are just some of the behaviors. If you are familiar with this, then this video is for you. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Vina Raji, and in today's topic we are going to talk about how I went from anxious to secure attachment. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel is dedicated to talking about childhood trauma, narcissistic abuse, and healing your attachment style, something that I have worked through on my own over the last couple of years without any professional intervention. And I started this channel with that intention of sharing everything that's worked for me. And if you're committed to your healing journey wherever you are currently, I hope that there will be something for you to take away from this video. The first step in order for you to move from anxious to a secure attachment is knowing about your own attachment style. Now, I am assuming for those who are currently watching this video, you probably already know where you are on the attachment spectrum, and most likely you are anxiously attached. And for those of you who may not know, and if you think or you suspect that you have anxious tendencies, then I would urge that you go get your attachment quiz done. There are so many available online. You can take the attachment style quiz to understand where you are currently on your attachment spectrum. Now, understanding your attachment style can open up the doors to healing, and it's also going to provide you the tools that you would need in order for you to start working through your patterns. Now, what it really does, attachment style is an amazing tool because it allows you to look at things from a psychological perspective. Now, we are not here to label anyone, that they have an insecure attachment or you have an avoidant attachment, but knowing your own attachment style gives you the perspective and understanding of your own patterns, of your own behaviors, and how this repeated behaviors has been affecting your connections, your relationships, and maybe your chances of even building a healthy, loving connection. Now, when you understand your attachment style, the first thing you get is validation. You are validating that there's a name to whatever that you had experienced. It puts things into perspective. You start getting better understanding as to why you behave the way you do, and when you develop this, and why you have come to develop these patterns. So essentially, getting to know your attachment style as a first step is also validating your emotions that you may have struggled with throughout your lives and not be able to explain it to people or put a name behind those emotional struggles. So when you discover your attachment style, you also know that you aren't the only person who is currently struggling with anxious attachment. There really are so many others like you out there. I was one of them too. I have done the work to heal and to lean in more secure now. So find out about your attachment style, get clear, see what are the patterns that you see in yourself, and then gradually we can break that down and start working from there. Step number 2 is to develop healthy and effective communication skills. Now, secure people are excellent communicators. They know how to communicate their needs. They know how to ask for their needs to be met. They know how to manage conflicts. They know how to navigate around difficult conversations, and they do not shy away or walk away when things are difficult. They don't resort to protest behavior, unlike the insecure attachment counterparts. So understanding how you can develop secure communication skills is going to bring you one step closer to dealing with your attachment style. As a matter of fact, a lot of us who have insecure attachment styles struggle with communication. We do not know how to communicate our needs. We do not know how to ask our needs to be met in a healthy way. And as a result, we tend to develop protest behaviors. We tend to engage in this game playing. We do these mind games and hoping that someone would be able to pick up the cues and understand where we are coming from as an attempt to get that reassurance and our needs met. But, unfortunately, that's not a healthy behavior. That is just not how someone that is healthy and secure would communicate. And if you were to do that to someone that is secure, well, to a certain extent, they might be able to pick up the cues and attune to your emotional needs and try to meet you halfway. However, if you are engaging with someone who also happens to fall on the insecure attachment spectrum, then it becomes an ultimate disaster. So if you want to become someone who is securely attached, you have to work on developing healthy communication skills. You need something. You have to communicate your need. You want more communication. You need to find out a way to communicate that to your partner. You want more calls. You want more text messages. You want more connection. You have to find a healthy way to ask for your needs to be met. At the same time, you also need to offer compassion and understanding towards the other person's needs as well. So again, if you want to know how you can develop effective communication skills, I do have a separate video on this one, so please do check out the video and feel free to ask me any questions that you might have in the comments down below. Acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses. I have actually talked about this even in my previous videos, and I am going to emphasize this again. Now, we all have strengths and weaknesses. No one is an exception. You might be really good at certain things, and that is your strength, and you might not be so great at certain things. And I've said this before, that as a person, there is no such thing that we would know everything in this world. We can't be good at everything. We can be good at certain things, but we can't be good at everything. It's important that you acknowledge who you are as an individual, start valuing yourself, start taking pride in your strengths, acknowledge what you are really, really good at the same time, remain grounded and accept that you too have weaknesses, and there are certain areas that you might not be great at. And if someone were to come to you and ask you, be honest, be transparent, and tell them that, hey, this isn't really my area of expertise and I don't really have much knowledge around this subject, so perhaps I might not be the best person to talk about it. Whereas now, if someone were to talk to you or ask you about something that you're really good at, and now that's where you shine, you can confidently speak about the things that you really know. Now, if someone were to talk to me about travel, for example, I have extensive knowledge on travel. I am well traveled. I was once a professional travel planner, so I have extensive knowledge on the subject of travel, and I can actually give information on professional level. I can give them a professional point of view. Now, at the same time, if someone were to talk to me about tech, now I'm really lousy at tech, and I would admit this. So if you come and ask me something, the simplest things about tech, I will not be able to hold a conversation. I basically can't even tell someone how to do basic troubleshooting, because that's something I struggle with. And I have enough humility in me to accept that this are my weaknesses and these are my strengths. So I take immense pride in the things that I'm really good at. I take so much pride in my strength, and I do not let anyone to dim my light around those things that makes me who I truly am. Now you need to get really confident. There are separate videos on this as well, so you can feel free to take a look at other videos that I have developed. Now you have to understand that life is all about duality. You can't be everything. So embrace your strength, embrace your weaknesses, and that's how healthy, secure people are. They don't act like they know everything, and you don't have to be that person. Because the reason why you need to actually acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses is because someone with an anxious tendencies, they tend to try to want to fit into a conversation, or just in a group setting, they tend to develop people pleasing tendencies. So they would do things that do not even make them feel comfortable. And sometimes this can even come with snide remarks. People can throw backhanded comments. This is where you really need to be firm in what you believe in what you know. And when you know your strengths and weaknesses, you will know how to navigate around conversations which aren't healthy for you. Now, this is very important when you have anxious attachment. When your attachment system is activated, you struggle to calm your nervous system. And it's a fact, when your attachment system is activated, sometimes it can even take 1 to 2 days before you can calm your nervous system. And this is why it is important, if you have anxious attachment or anxious tendencies, you need to learn healthy emotional regulation skills. And this is going to make a huge difference, because whenever you're triggered, whenever you're feeling anxious, when you have the right tools at your disposal, you will know how to calm your anxiety and not rely on someone to always soothe your emotions. This is important because a lot of people with anxious attachment struggle with this. And let me tell you this, if you have anxious attachment, you know what I'm talking about. When you are triggered, it is not as easy as someone telling you, oh, get over it. You can't just snap out of it, as and when you want. It's impossible, which is why you need to understand that it's okay that you're triggered, and learn how to soothe yourself. Make sure that you learn healthy emotional regulation skills. Now, I have talked about this in my video on how I calm my anxiety permanently, so feel free to check that out so you can pick up on some tools on how you can work through your emotional regulation skills. Now, one of the things that you can do is practice a deep breathing technique, which I also call the 4-7-8 technique, where you take a deep breath and inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, and exhale for 8 counts. You can do this anytime, anywhere, anytime, 8 to 10 times at least, before you would start feeling a bit more relaxed. Next, you can do is also try the polyvagal theory. You can calm your vagus nerve by using your index finger and putting pressure on your ear and just press them down. Now, there's a separate video for that, so I'm not going to get into details here. So please feel free to check out my other video on how to calm anxiety, so you can get more information on this. Now, calming your vagus nerve is excellent. It almost instantly brings your anxiety down. It calms your nervous system. So learn that technique, because you can apply this anywhere, anytime when you are anxious. The moment you calm your vagus nerve, your anxiety drops like down to from a 10, you can go down to a 2, like in an instant, in 1 to 2 minutes. This works amazingly well. Now, the next you can do is obviously meditation. Again, meditation is a bit more of a long-term process, because when you're anxious, if someone tells you, oh, just go and sit and meditate, it would likely give you a temporary relief. And also, when you are quite high on the anxiety, meditation may not necessarily always help. Meditation works as a grounding technique, so that is something that you can do when you are not activated, when your anxious system is not activated. However, when you are activated, meditation may not work that well for you. So again, you need to develop few healthy emotional regulation tools to calm your nervous system, so you can be more in control of your emotions when you are triggered, and not always rely on another person. And remember, when you are able to control your own emotions, you are going to feel more in control of yourself, and as a result, someone who is able to see through your struggles will most likely be able to show you more compassion. But ultimately, the goal here is for you to be able to control your emotions and how you're feeling in a situation. Because understand, your attachment system is valid. Your emotional triggers are obviously coming from a place of past experiences where you have experienced some painful memories that still remains in your body, and those are unresolved trauma that is currently being triggered again due to external circumstances that is beyond your control. And that is okay, it's fine, but learn how to regulate your emotions so you can be more in control of how you manage your emotions within yourself and also with others, so you don't act out. Step number 5 is using words of affirmations. Now, understand how words of affirmations can impact us. Our words are made of energy. Our words and thoughts forms our belief system. So the more we talk to ourselves kindly with compassion and we use constant words of reaffirmations, after a while, your subconscious mind and your brains will pick up what you keep telling yourself. Now, if you tell yourself every single day without fail, tell yourself that you're worthy of love. Tell yourself that you're worthy of feeling secure. You're worthy of security and safety. And you're worthy of abundance. You're worthy of success. You're worthy of becoming secure. Keep telling that to yourself every single day. And I promise you, the next time when you get triggered or when someone is not able to reciprocate or meet your needs, your subconscious mind is now going to pick up instead of feeling that you are not good enough because you have constantly been feeding your subconscious mind that you're worthy and you're worthy of love, you're worthy of affection, you're worthy of abundance and a healthy, secure communication. You are worthy of all the amazing things that you need for yourself. Your subconscious mind is going to remind you that I'm worthy of this. You are no longer going to feel like I'm not good enough for someone. Words of affirmation can have profound impact into how you perceive yourself in the face of challenges, adversities and conflicts, especially now if you're in a romantic connection. If let's say your partner is not able to meet you or meet your needs or reciprocate in the way that you desire to feel good about yourself, you are going to tell yourself that I am worthy of this, I am worthy of more attention, I am worthy of care, instead of the typical anxious behavior where you have this internal belief system that, oh my god, I'm going to be abandoned, oh my god, this person is not going to like me, or I'm not worthy of love, I'm not good enough. You have to rewire this. This is a childhood conditioning that you picked up because of your relationship that you had with your caregivers, but this is not your caregiver that you're dealing with. Unfortunately, your subconscious system still believes what you believed as a child. So what you are essentially being asked to do here is to change that subconscious belief. And the one way to do it is to reaffirm this belief. Keep saying this to you every single day. Sixth step is to learn how secure attachment works. Exactly, that's what it is. You want to know how someone who has a secure attachment would respond, and you want to fight like a dragon to start embodying those secure traits in yourself. And I would say that this is also in a form of mirroring, but you want to mirror those good qualities, the healthy, secure traits. You want to start being that person. You want to start embodying these secure qualities because that's who you want to become. You want to move from being anxious to secure. So what do? You start pretending that you are already the secure person. So at any point in time when you feel like you are falling back into your old patterns, let's say if you are falling back into your protest behaviors, so for example that maybe you tried reaching out to your partner and you hadn't heard back from your partner, you hadn't got a call or text messages after a couple of hours, what the old version of you would likely do is to leave multiple text messages or try to call multiple times, and then eventually when you reestablish contact with that person, you would likely act out by maybe sulking or being upset or by making accusation or whatever that is. You would know that for yourself. So what you want to do here is, instead of falling back into that old patterns, learn what a secure person would do and how they would react, and start embodying that. What a secure person would do in this instant, they would ask, hey, what happened, what's going on, and why it took you so long for you to respond. And then when you get a response from them, you might want to communicate and in a very secure, transparent and healthy way and say that, hey, you know what, this not hearing from you for such a long time was making me a little anxious, and it just made me worry a lot. So I would appreciate the next time if you would just be able to let me know if you're going to be going away for a long time where we might not be able to be in touch or something. You want to come up with a agreement. You want to come up with a dialogue, a healthy one, and by letting them actually know that not hearing back from them within a certain period of time made you feel a little anxious and worried, and you would not want that, and you do care for them, but at the same time that you would like a little bit more assurance. Now that's how a secure person would communicate. Now what you're doing here is you are already moving yourself from your old patterns. Instead of now resorting to your protest behavior, you are breaking away from that cycle and resorting to a more healthy, secure way of communicating and relating to the other person. Understand your triggers and what are your needs. You see, you are getting triggered obviously because something has happened in the past, and whatever that's happening in the present situation is now reminding your inner child of something that you had experienced before. And this trigger brings up a lot of emotional painful wounds, and you tend to relive that again. And a lot of time what we don't realize is when we're actually triggered, it really has nothing to do with the other person. Our trigger is really bringing us back to a time when we had lived through a traumatic experience and we were not equipped with the tools and skills to deal with our emotions in a healthy way. And if you were a child, you would not know how to ask for your needs to be met. So now if you have certain triggers, you need to first understand where those triggers are coming from, and no one can do that for you except for yourself. I would say that, let's say for example, maybe someone taking a very long time to respond to your text, or someone not responding to you, just leaving you on read, is very triggering for you. Now this is the case for a lot of anxiously attached folks that I have personally known as well, and this applies to me as well. I do get very triggered when someone would leave me on read and not give me a response maybe for an extended period of time. For me, it really triggers my abandonment wound, where I start thinking that this person is probably losing interest, or did something happen, did I do something, is my friend upset with me? Now this can happen in any connections, not necessarily romantic connections, so be aware of that. If you are being triggered by a friend not responding to you, you really need to understand where this is coming from, and then also take a step back and reassess what really are your needs in this instance. I'll give you an example. So I have this friend of mine, and she's an amazing person, she means well for me. However, she tends to like not respond to messages sometimes, and I mean these are not necessarily like an important conversation, like these are just regular conversations where sometimes it just stops abruptly and I don't get a response. So there was one time when we were just casually having coffee and we were talking about it, and I said that, oh yeah, I mean I do get actually triggered when I don't get a response, and my friend didn't know that it actually affects me, so she apologized to me immediately. And from that point forward, she made sure that she would always acknowledge and respond to my text. So you see, sometimes it can be as simple as that. The other person may not necessarily know that that little thing is affecting you. So you need to understand where your triggers are coming from. And at the same time, I was also able to come to terms with that okay, that's just my friend, and she's not doing that intentionally to ignore me or anything. It's just that it's not really an important conversation, and sometimes it just sort of like just ends without any response or acknowledgement. So I was able to come to terms with that. But at the same time, when I had the opportunity in a more casual setting, I was also able to just share with her casually, and we just reached a point that okay, we both understood each other. So now that no longer affects me. So you want to understand your trigger, because when you learn where your triggers are coming from, you will be able to understand what needs are not being met and how you can ask for your needs to be met. Get to know yourself. Now, again, I have talked about it in my videos as well. It's really important because when you have anxious attachment, a lot of times you just tend to be a people pleaser. You tend to go with the flow. You want to try to fit in. You try to do things to please others in an attempt to want to keep the connection, to keep the closeness, or just to be able to keep people around, even if that isn't making you happy. And this is where you really need to take a step back, turn inwards, look inwards, and see who you really are as a person, who you are. What is it that you like? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? What makes you happy? What activities interest you? What is it that makes you feel the best version of yourself? The more you start getting to know yourself, the more comfortable you will get in your skin. Because a lot of times when we have anxious attachment, we tend to wear a mask around, and we always try to fit into someone else's idea and perception of who they think we should be, instead of just being comfortable in our own skin. And this is not very easy to change. You can't change this overnight. You develop this in an attempt to feel safe around people. You develop people-pleasing tendencies and overgiving tendencies because that's the only way you know how to get attention and feel cared and loved. However, as an adult, you do have a responsibility to live for yourself and not for others. If you want to be comfortable in your own skin, if you want to feel more accepted, you first need to start understanding what is it that you need, what is it that makes you happy, who you truly are as a person, and understand that everyone is different and not everyone's going to accept you for who you are, and that is perfectly fine. But please take the time, get to know yourself. What is it that you really like? Now, if you love working out, you love fitness, you want to be around people who love fitness and love working out, because then you don't need to try to pretend to be someone that you're not. You are just spending time with someone who's more aligned with you. Now, if you are into, let's say, sports, you want to spend time with people who understand the sport, someone who can actually exchange that knowledge and that interest around that subject, instead of being around people who probably just don't like fitness and sports, because then they will not be able to relate to you. And instead of them trying to relate to you, you do everything in your power to try and fit into what their areas of interest are. And this is where you actually lose your identity, you lose yourself. So in order for you to shift to becoming more secure, you want to learn about yourself. Number 9 is to validate your past experiences and emotions. Now, for people who are anxiously attached, we carry a lot of shame and guilt in us for all the things that we may have done in our past, especially if you've had maybe relationships that have not worked, or maybe you are upset with your relationship with your family, with your parents, with your siblings. You need to validate your emotions, you need to validate your experiences, and understand that you have lived through some very real experiences. Now, if you have a lot of abandonment wounds, you carry a lot of pain with you, acknowledge it, that your experiences are valid. Now, as a child, maybe you had parents who just weren't able to be there to meet your emotional needs because they were busy with other things. Maybe they were busy attending to your siblings who were younger, or maybe they were just busy working and they were not really present in your life as much as you would like to. So as a result, you have developed some of these anxious attachment traits, which is haunting you in your adult life until today. And you just carry this silent pain of wanting to feel seen, understood, and you crave a lot of closeness, which you cannot get because you tend to engage in behaviors that does the exact opposite, which often pushes people away. So I want you to take the time for you to validate all the experiences that comes to your mind. And again, this is not a very linear process. This can happen in a different time space, in different timeline of your life, so at any point in time when you feel a certain emotions coming up, I want you to take the time to validate your emotions, acknowledge your experiences, be compassionate. Whenever you feel like you are being triggered with certain abandonment wounds, I want you to go back to revisiting those memories, those experiences, and offer some compassion for that inner child, because you know what you have lived through was very difficult. Also, at the same time, tell yourself that you are an adult and you have the capacity to look after yourself now, and offer some compassion and know that this is not forever. You can heal yourself and you can move forward to feeling more secure and happy and healthy in the future. And the final step for you to move towards becoming more secure is to do the shadow work. Now, why we talk so much about shadow work? Because shadow work is here to reveal about different parts of yourself that needs to be acknowledged, because a lot of times when we fall under the insecure attachment spectrum, we have a lot of core woundings, we have a lot of shame, we carry a lot of guilt, and there just are a lot of things that we don't like about ourselves. We carry this inner critic, there's this inner voice that is constantly nagging at us, where we just simply don't feel good enough. You really need to start acknowledging all the parts of yourself that you don't like about you. What are the things that you are afraid that people may not accept if you were to share with them? What are the things you don't feel great about yourself? Be it your appearance, be it your physical attributes, or is it the work that you do, or is it your interest, anything for that matter. You want to get to the bottom of all the things that you don't like about yourself. Do you lack confidence? You want to understand why you lack confidence. You don't like something about yourself. Maybe you don't like the way you relate or communicate with people. You feel that you just don't have the right communication skills, or you just feel awkward. You want to go back to revisiting why you are like that. Why are you struggling in that area? And this goes in much deeper, because shadow work is really about exploring your inner child, all parts of you that you have suppressed over the years, and you developed this persona, this fake persona, to feel more seen and based on what you think people will accept of you. And by doing so, you are actually suppressing the real side of you, because you feel like, if you show that part of you, people will not accept you. So doing the shadow work is really, really going to help you to heal your inner child. And as you do the inner child healing, you will be able to heal those parts of you that are not the real you. And once you do the healing work, you would come out the other side to finally start accepting who you truly are. You would start seeing who you really are, who you were born to be, because all this while your wounding, your trauma, and all these suppressed emotions have been holding you back from being the best version of yourself. So here are the 10 steps on how you can work towards moving from anxious to becoming more securely attached. Now, again, this is not an overnight process. It's just going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of commitment on your part to heal your attachment style. As I said, your attachment styles are not set in stone. You can work through it and you can move towards becoming more securely attached. And when you move towards becoming more securely attached, you are going to get to live the life that you truly desire. You're going to be well received. You will have better quality relationships, connections, Probably you would even do better in your career, in every area of your life. So for those of you who are committed, I wish you all the best. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. And I would also ask you to please like and subscribe to help me grow the channel. And I'll see you again in my next video. Bye now.